Welcome to Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association. Hi, good day, everyone. This is Jason Wilson, president of the Kentucky Auto Dealers Association, and this is another edition of the official podcast of KADA, Kentucky Horsepower. So thank you for joining us. With us today is our friends from Vitu, and that's going to include Dave Spencer and Zach Newsom. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. And before we get into some of the questions and answers for our members' benefit, you'll recall the name V2, having heard it, read it, seen it, perhaps seen these Dave Spencer at our district meetings where we're talking about the partnership with KDA and V2 being our endorsed vendor to assist us with this electronic titling and registration, i.e. KAVIS, which is being implemented, as everybody knows, right now. The part that V2 is going to play for everyone's benefit is they're going to be the company that works with the dealers to integrate this system, right? So V2 is going to be the company that works at the dealer level and works then through other Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to kind of push and pull that information along with Champ Titles. So that's all the players. That's really quick, high level, but I wanted to remind everyone who our partner is here today. So you may think we're here simply to talk about KAVIS and V2 and what that's going to look like. And while that is underway and important, and we'll be here quickly, one of the things we wanted to talk about is that there's a great benefit to the dealers to get involved with V2 currently. So with that, let me go to Dave Spencer. Dave, good seeing you again. Thanks for joining us. Let's talk about what dealers can start doing today with V2 and the benefit of getting started with V2 now that will make it that much easier when KAVIS is fully operational and we're starting to use this system to transfer information electronically.
Absolutely. Jason, thanks for having us. Commonwealth of Kentucky, great to talk to you again. So yes, a couple key advantages of part of the V2 ecosystem when it comes to registering and titling cars in the great state of Kentucky. We are able to provide your dealership some inherent benefits today while we're waiting for our pilot phase to complete for the in-state registration platform, which you'll all be using very shortly. Those two products are both our National Title Exchange product as well as our Interstate product. And at a 30,000 foot view, essentially, we can get you a title in 3 business days or less through our National Title Exchange, as long as you have a legal chain of custody. We'll go over some details on that, as well as we can assist you with all the property fees, forms, and actual registration completion and titling of vehicles that are registered outside of the state of Kentucky, taking away all of the guesswork, making sure that your finance department can operate as efficiently as possible while securitizing your collateral and delivering a good customer experience.
So the need for speed is really what we're talking about here in a lot of ways, right? We know that is always one of the big restraints especially as it relates to out-of-state titles and how complicated and complex those transactions can be. I know you're working in it with a number of states right now. Who are some of the states you're working with on this, and how's that going so far?
Yeah, so talking about from the National Title Exchange perspective, we're endorsed in several states around the country. Most importantly is how many dealers and how many titles that we're pumping out today. So okay. We're operating in all 50 states. Again, it doesn't matter what state a vehicle is currently titled in. If you need a title for any reason, person lost it, bank's taking too long, title was accidentally destroyed, doesn't matter. We're now producing 60,000 transactions or 60,000 titles per month as of January through the National Title Exchange, greatly reducing the time that it takes to get a vehicle frontline ready for retail. And we'll talk about in a second, drastically reducing your holding costs to make sure if you're wholesaling that vehicle, you're getting the maximum amount of wholesale value in the most timely fashion possible. So we are endorsed in several other associations around the country. One of our favorites, and not just because Jason's on the phone or talking to you folks, is our endorsement by KADA.
Absolutely. And look, for those listening who are learning about this relationship for the first time, again, we've been messaging about it pretty heavily. This has come together after much work, much research, much engagement over the last really few years just to get, first of all, our legislation passed that needed to be done so we could begin this process. But again, I don't want to. I want to be very clear. What we're talking about today is with the V2s, and I believe it's the NTX program, is how you refer to it. Is really dealing with these national titles throughout the country that can be turned around quickly. As Dave mentioned, 60,000 transactions a month, which is a massive number. How about I ask you a few questions that sort of come to mind, and we'll just take them that way. One of the things we deal with here that can be difficult at times is duplicate titles, right? You hear that all the time. So why would a dealership use the NTX service for just applying for a duplicate title from say, the current titling state?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jason. So, as we know across the country, state turn times for getting those title generated vastly change. Some are very quick, right? I can think of Ohio, Alabama, California, pretty quick states. There are some other states that are 45, 60 days. All encompassing, the average turn time is a whopping 21 days to get a duplicate title in-house. That's 21 days of holding a vehicle. You use NADA's average holding of about $67. That could be somewhere between $185 and $699 per vehicle acquired that your dealership has in expenses, all reduced by using the National Title Exchange. 100% digital transactions. You're not mailing documents. You're literally uploading documents to our service. We audit it, print the title, package the title, and have the title to your dealership guaranteed in 3 business days or less.
Wow, that is when you think about how, as you just described, how it can be, the length of time, and we talked about the speed of business today and the importance of being able to move that process forward. What does one need to provide V2 in order to get an NTX title? What does that look like?
Excellent. Yeah. So following ANVA's guidelines around digital titling, we were able to establish our national title exchange about 18 months ago. What the main key component of is a chain of custody that matches who the titling state's like master DMV database says is the registered owner and legal owner. So basically it's a legal chain of custody. That would be a bill of sale and a conforming 50 state odometer statement at a minimum. Obviously we have some complex sales that go through our dealerships that require power of attorneys for active duty military and incapacitated individuals, death certificates and trust documents, things like that. But here's one of the great parts about the National Title Exchange that dealers absolutely salivate for. And I know that as soon as I say this, your dealer's gonna be like hungry for more. What if you don't have a valid chain of custody, right? What happens if the paperwork somehow was either destroyed, not filled out correctly, didn't make it to the business office, right? It was a remote purchase, something happened, it wasn't signed in the right place, and now you don't have the right to sell that vehicle via wholesale or retail. And you have to go through this laborious paperwork process, going back into your DMS, printing off the state forms for transfer, packaging them up in a UPS envelope, paying for both inbound and outbound shipping, cover letters, sign here tabs, and phone calls. It's all super frustrating for your dealership staff and a bit of an abrasive for our consumers, right? Now they have to get a package. They have to go through, read the instructions, fill it out, restuff it, and then take the time to drop that off at UPS. None of that exists in the National Title Exchange because we have a fully digital process where we will send a securitized digital document via email or preferably by text message to the seller. That seller could be an auction, right? Or an auctioning party. Maybe the auction did get you a timely fashion. Could be a wholesaler, the person who traded it in, or maybe just a street purchase that you did. Irrelevant as long as you have their contact information. When that document is sent, they go through a NIST level 2 signature verification to make sure that it's compliant with all DOT standards. Once that signature is verified, they'll fill out a document just like they do in DocuSign, right? Sign here, complete. That takes less than 30 seconds, really helping to alleviate that friction between our dealerships and our consumers when they've traded the vehicle in already. They don't want to have to deal with anything else. They just want to be rid of it. So it makes it a lot easier. Best part, 99.5% of our digital transfer forms that go out at about a tune of about 10,000 per month are handled same business day, not days or weeks, same business day.
Wow. So obviously that's again, we talk about the speed, right? And that's really what stands out. It's just how quick this process is compared to how I know a number of dealers are doing it today, from the research of the municipality of where this is in the other state, and having to get all the detailed information regarding that transaction can take a lot of time. Something else that comes to mind, as you know, especially when people are looking at used vehicles, they're looking at Carfax or history, that sort of things. How many owners does this have? And as you know, the less owners, the better, right? When someone's looking at a used car, just quickly going through. So with the NTX, this National Title Exchange Program, how does that show? I mean, is it gonna show up as multiple transactions on a report like that?
No, that's a great question. And obviously you got the pulse on the market, right? We're trying to do everything that we can with our used car values to boost evaluation in a depreciating market. So having an extra owner show up on a Carfax report isn't something that we'd want to do. So you really think of it from a standpoint, Jason, of it's just a wholesale transaction, right? Is what's
Okay,
going on in the background. And just as the wholesale transactions don't show up in Carfax, auto check, things like that, neither would a national title change transaction.
okay,
All right. The only thing that's typically reported to those Carfaxes are true registrations. Being there's no registration being held in this transaction, your Carfax would stay clean.
got it. Good point. Now let me ask you something else here. As we talk about, we're evolving. Of course, we're not far from entering the pilot stage. Where we're going to be bringing dealers on, and they're going to be going through the V2 portal for these Kentucky transactions that are going to be connecting them to the county clerk's offices throughout the state.
Mm-hmm.
Does this program, when you sign into this, you're using NTX, is there a separate login, separate screen, or is this part of the ease of doing it right now that we spoke of, as far as getting acclimated, getting used to it, and making it a pretty seamless transaction? What does that look like?
That's exactly that. So the V2 ecosystem of registration titling products are that one single login. Matter of fact, it's even more or less complicated. If you're a central processing dealer organization, in other words, you have title clerks in one location that are processing for multiple stores in your
Right.
group, they can do that from one login, manage from one logbook, seamlessly manage their in-state EVR transactions when available, NTX transactions, and what Zach will be covering here very shortly are interstate transactions for vehicles that are sold outside of the state of Kentucky. One login, one user interface. So Jason, as you said, if the dealer sees the value in National Title Exchange or Interstate, it's going to give you a taste of what the user interface looks like today. Familiarize yourself and make it that much easier to bridge the gap from our manual processing we've been doing for decades here in Kentucky to an
Sure.
electronic format for those registrations moving forward.
So it is a great way to, for lack of a better way, to dip your toe in the water, so to speak, get used to the look and feel, and that way you can really hit the ground running when all is ready to move forward. Zach, let's get you involved here, and so first, so our folks listening here, this is Zach Newsom, and Zach, as I understand it, you're going to be really handling the overall sales operations in Kentucky as it relates to onboarding dealers and getting that going. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, correct. So we'll be working with them face to face. So as we sign them up, we will be coming in, doing everything in person. We'll also have an account executive that is available as well. So, if there's any retraining, anything like that, it's all part of the service. You just get a hold of your account executive, and they can schedule, come in, do whatever you need.
Great. And speaking of sort of that, some of these transactions, Dave talked at a high level of the initial questions I asked. What would you like to add regarding what these transactions will look like?
Yes. So are you speaking of Interstate?
Yeah, Interstate.
So the interstate system, and again, I know you spoke about this, everything's all in one system, which makes it very, very nice. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is we do integrate with almost all the DMS systems. So, especially with
Good
interstate.
point. Yes, thanks.
Yeah. As far as title clerks go, it's going to eliminate keystrokes, basically pulls that information from the DMS, makes it much quicker. So you're not having to enter everything. And then as far as the interstate system goes, that's going to be for all of your customers that are coming from out of state, which can be, a real problem at times trying to figure out out of state fees, local fees, things like that. So the interstate system, you would just simply go into it. It starts in the finance department. You would start it there, and it would generate all of your fees for you up front, so you know what to collect, whether it be local, county, anything like that. And then also, once that's done, once you have everything from the deal in there, it will actually generate a dynamic checklist for the finance. Gives great detail, and I say dynamic because it's not just one specific for each state. It's based on what type of transaction, retail, lease, if they're military, things like that. So it knows what to put on there. And then it will pre-populate all those state forms for them in finance. So all they have to do is print it out, the customer signs. And then at that point, they would be done. Once the title clerk gets it, it makes it really nice because they get all the paperwork. And what really separates us from all other companies, I truly believe, is the pre-audit. Many a times you're sending things to a company and then they send a FedEx to send it back. You mess something up. We do a pre-audit basically where you'll scan all of your documents into the portal. Our auditors will go in, get that, pre-audit it. That way, if they need anything or something's incorrect, they forgot something, they can let them know. At that point, once they pass the audit, the title clerk then would go in and submit it for full service, in which they would scan all those documents in. The documents then would all go in there. Actually, they'd already be in there, but then it would generate a shipping labels. So it would generate the label that would go to the Vitu hub for that state, in which everybody in the dealership would have full visibility. So you can see from the start of the process, when we receive it, to once it goes out to the state, it timestamps it, and then it goes all the way to final with the tracking numbers for that customer, with the plates, registrations, goes right to them. So you're able to see it. The other thing I'd like to mention too is that we don't bill until the end. So V2 actually will front those fees all the way to the end, which helps prevent refund checks, things like that. Yeah, it's a great system. And again, it's all in one, so that they're not having to go into different ones. Like Dave said earlier, it's all on one portal. So,
well, the other thing it does that is I could speak to as a former F&I manager is the way this thing is put together. Some of those conversations between your F&I managers and your title clerks, as far as the sharing of information, this should make this that much more seamless with that checklist you're talking about. I don't know why, but some reason F&I guys get a bad rap for having their paperwork all buttoned up for the title clerk. So this should help alleviate that and make it all that much more of a seamless transaction, I would think.
Yeah, it really.
Bringing in one point, overall dealer profitability too. When you have an out-of-state customer, right, the propensity to sell any products in F&I drastically is reduced. And part of that reason is we're not spending the same amount of time in the preparatory paperwork where we get to build rapport with our clients. The interstate process slows that down, right? You're basically providing a great service to your consumer. So when they get to their home state, they don't have to go out to their local DMVs, right? Stand in line and do all of that. At the same token, it's letting that finance manager ask the questions. Home residence, oh great, build in. Where's your home? Great. I've never been to that town. Things like that. You start building that rapport, and you can start getting these products added back on. We've seen a great enhancement in overall dealer profitability with F&I products sold when Interstate is used, simply because the fact it slows down the sales process where it needs to be while delivering that high-end customer experience that all of our consumers across the United States are now expecting from us as dealers.
Yeah, great point. And look, we're about wrapping up here. Are there any, Zach, I'll go to you first. Any final thoughts you want to share before we wrap up?
Not really. I just want to say thank you to Jason, and I'm really excited and looking forward to working with all the Kentucky dealers. They're all the ones that I've met are really great. So appreciate it and look forward to meeting everybody.
Absolutely. And Dave, what about you? Any final words before we wrap up today?
Absolutely. Rest assured, Jason and I went through rounds before any of these endorsements, were settled. But one of the things that V2 does fundamentally as a company is we are transactionally based pricing, which simply means you have no risk. You do a transaction, We don't offer what we've sold. We don't deliver what you and your clients expect. We would fully expect you to fire us and find another provider. We're that sure of ourselves that we'll go out of our way, get things signed up, fill out the account, do all the training, right? And on that first transaction, we don't meet your needs, you don't need to use us again. So it's not like other technology companies. There's no contracts, no minimums, none of this stuff, right? We're sure of the product, we're sure of our customer support, and we really look forward to being heavily involved in the state of Kentucky. Zach and I both are always available at everyone's disposal as time goes on to assist you with any registration or titling need that may come up. Whether that's within the V2 ecosystem or not, we are subject matter experts that are more than happy to help your dealerships.
Good deal. Well, guys, thanks again for joining us here today. Lots of exciting things on the horizon in Kentucky. You all, of course, are a big part of that, and we'll be working closely on all these items. So again, thank you for being here. For our folks listening or watching, thank you for joining this edition of Kentucky Horsepower, and we'll see you down the road.